welcome to Yorkshire Voice on this Thursday the 21st of March. I'm Tanita Sims. Here's what's making the news today. There are concerns in Bradford that council plans to close waste tip sites could result in an increase in fly tipping. With Easter fast approaching, a new report suggests many Easter eggs are a case of paying more for less. And we'll be celebrating World Poetry Day.
The World Poetry Day was about connecting with other languages and other poetries.
There are concerns across West Yorkshire about the increase in fly tipping. Leeds City Council is launching a new scheme to help residents avoid rogue companies dumping waste illegally. But residents in Bradford are worried the closure of 3 tips in the city, along with a reduction in days when other tips are open, will lead to more fly tipping, and have launched a petition to change the situation. Jane Gregory is live for us outside the Ford Hill Waste Centre in Queensbury. Jane, what are local people saying?
Well, there's been a petition here to save the site, which over 6,000 people have signed. There's been a lot of concern raised on social media. Local residents say closing it will lead to an increase in fly tipping, with some residents even saying they'll start dumping their waste out of protest at the council. Fly tipping is already a problem in many parts of Bradford district. I'm here at Ford Hill, but there's sites at Ilkley and in Sugden End in Crossroads where they're also closing the waste recycling centres. I've been finding out what it's like living in an area with a fly tipping problem. Fly tipping can cause real unhappiness. In a drive to save 40 million, Bradford Council is set to close 3 household waste recycling centres, causing concern that fly tipping will increase. We hear what it's like living in an area with a fly tipping problem.
You get more vermin and there's danger issues if you've got kids playing and all those things. It might sound less serious, but actually it really gets you down, I find, and particularly in this area we've got some lovely little areas of open space with woodland and birds, and it's a joy in such an urban environment to be able to hear the birds, but it's an absolute downer to have white goods, soiled bedding, endless bags of rubbish.
Bradford's remaining waste recycling centres will be reducing the number of days they are open. Alongside an increase in the fee for bulk waste collection to £50, this could make it harder for some householders to dispose of rubbish properly. This is Jane Gregory for Yorkshire Voice. Well, earlier I talked to people in Queensbury about their local tip closing, and this is what they had to say about it.
Well, to be honest, I think it's a disgrace. And we had 2 councillors from Queensbury that didn't step in to help us with this.
It's going to lead to vermin. If people have to leave stuff outside the houses.
I'm here today with Judy Wetherall, who was the organiser of the petition. Now, Judy, can you tell me why you organised it?
I organised it because the council is wrong to decide to close the outlying tips of the Bradford district. Yes, they have to reduce their budget and they say they have to reduce the council services, but they don't need to concentrate all their cuts on the outlying districts of the Bradford area.
Well, I've just received a statement from Councillor Ferraby from Bradford Council, and she says that Bradford has actually got an unusually large number of household waste recycling centres. What do you say about that?
I'd like to respond to Councillor Ferraby. There was a government study done in 2019 by the UK Government's Environment, Food and Rural Affairs Committee, and it states that in the past, local authority services that have reduced their recycling centres have had a substantial increase in fly tipping. Bradford Council District already has a substantial problem with fly tipping, and the correlation between waste recycle centres closing proves that there is an increase in fly tipping. So we know for definite there will be an increase in fly tipping in our area. We have a problem in this area already I can just state a few roads if that's possible. We have problems on D Stones Lane, Green Lane, Jackson Hill, Corporal Lanes, Cyclane, Shore Lane.
I can hear that there's already a lot of fly tipping going on and that there's a major concern. I think it would be fair to say that Councillor Ferraby says that we know that many people are unhappy with these closures and that they themselves are unhappy, but these cuts are unfortunately due to the financial situation the council faces. Thank you very much, and thank you, Judy.
Okay.
Thank you, Jane. Jane Gregory reporting live from Queensbury. In other news, West Yorkshire Police have revealed that more than £500,000 worth of drugs were seized during a week-long operation targeting drug gangs in Yorkshire and Humberside. During the operation last month, which involved officers from 4 forces, 83 people were arrested and a number of weapons including a firearm, 5 machetes and dozens of knives were also taken by police. A new report out today claims that deteriorating health for people in Leeds has a direct impact on how long life expectancy could be. The report's author Dr. Tammy Boyce spoke today to our reporter, Xiao Shi.
I think we can say that in the long term, life expectancy will be narrower and people living in the poorest areas. We don't want people living in the longest areas, in the wealthiest areas to live shorter, but we want people living in the poorest areas to lift up so that they're living the same amount of time as people living in the wealthiest areas. That's the longer term aim. The shorter term aim, for example, in terms of housing, in Leeds there's a special program called selective licensing, which is looking at improving the private rented sector in a couple of different areas. So in the shorter term, what we'd like to say is we helped identify the health impacts of the selective licensing system, to carry on with this program, to give them evidence to help them carry on this program, to help other parts of the housing system to understand the impact that they have on health, to help education better address the inequalities and address the deprivation that is happening in schools, and to get other people to see what's happening in schools affects long-term education outcomes, which affects work, which affects health. So getting the whole system to see that the problem of health inequalities isn't just a problem for health, it's a problem for people and for services across Leeds.
Now today is World Poetry Day. It's an annual celebration that began in 1999. The whole day is devoted to supporting linguistic diversity using poetic expression. And we start with Yorkshire poet Oz Hardwick reading his poem especially for us.
Yorkshire on a spring afternoon, the air clouded with coffee and baking. Alchemy of eggs and milk and flour, aesthetically gorgeous in a kitchen full of steam. Specifications are laid out, spelled out and laid down for the packaging, and even the pavement beneath is honeyed.
Every 21st of March is World Poetry Day, with poetry in England dating back to the 7th century, with the first ever English poet being a Yorkshireman, Cadden from Whitley Abbey. Now, poetry is said to be able to evoke emotion, preserve cultural heritage and address social issues. Poetry surrounds us in our everyday life, from greeting cards to rap music to being performed on stages. So what do you think about poetry and World Poetry Day?
The World Poetry Day was about connecting with other languages and other poetries. And so what I'd say to people on World Poetry Day, yeah, read some poetry. But something that would be kind of good is look online for a reading of something you don't understand, a language you don't know, and listen to the rhythms in that language. Because it's about appreciating other cultures, I think.
Two things really, peace and calm for some poetry, and funny, laughing, makes you feel happy.
I think it's a really good way of expressing yourself, and with how many poets there are out there, sometimes when you can't find the words yourself, you look at poetry and you realize there's certain people like philosophers, poets who have kind of been through what you've been through, and you can take some solace in that. I don't know, it's quite nice.
There's so much that you'll overlook if your head is bent. allotments, alleyways and arguments, bairns, Brontes, bowls and bitter. There's something here that sucks us to the brink. The new rut where we cut our limit, the old sea roar, the sprung flight of martins. Forget the Cornish Sea, the top of Ben Nevis with its trapdoor light. This is what this afternoon is for. Deep lands sweep down like an intake of breath, and every blank page begins with snow.
Oz Hardwick ending that report from Beth Turner. Now it's been another cold and wet day here in Yorkshire. Let's head over to Mimi Ibrahim, who's braving the bad weather for us today. Mimi, please tell me there's going to be an improvement in the weather over the weekend.
Hi Tanita, well unfortunately that doesn't seem to be the case. It's been a very slow start to spring, so people might need to hold on to their umbrellas and brollies for a little while longer. It's been a very cloudy and misty day with highs of 10 degrees Celsius, so it's been pretty bleak. And as you can see behind me, not many people have been out, and mild temperatures are set to continue. Later tonight it's expected that there'll be a band of rain circling around Yorkshire. So yeah, it's been a very slow start to spring indeed. And weathers are set to drop down to 8 degrees Celsius as night approaches. And you're up to date with the weather with me, Mimi Ibrahim. Back to you in the studio.
Now with Easter approaching, you may be planning to buy an Easter egg or two. But today, a report from the consumer organisation which suggests many of us could be paying more for less. Well, we sent Thea Robinson to conduct our own price comparison, deciding which Easter eggs to buy.
Hi, here today I have two of the staples of Easter celebrations, and the price of Easter eggs has actually risen about 50% in just a year. Now, the price increase is in part due to the price of chocolate going up by about 12.6%. which the Supermarket Food and Drink Inflation Tracker noted that supermarkets like Morrison's, Asda, and Sainsbury's have also been rising their prices on the goodies. Shrinkflation is also a major concern, as massive chocolate eggs like the Mars milk chocolate Easter egg was once 250 grams, but is now 201 grams, but at the same price. I'm here in the heart of Horsforth to see what the public is saying about the increasing prices and the shrinking size of eggs.
So I reckon this one is about £1, and this one like £2.
Okay, so that's about £1.50, and this one is £3.50.
£3.50?
Mm-hmm. What do you think about it? Is it like too overpriced?
Well, I mean, like, they're not really like a necessity. I know that my mum said that she could buy me one this year because it's too expensive.
Oh, I'm not too sure. I think, well, this one's quite small, so I reckon this is about 70p, and this one's probably around £1.
So that's actually £1.50, and this is £3.50.
Really? I didn't realise that. Wow, that's a lot more expensive than I thought it'd be.
I don't think it's enough of a price increase where it would be unaffordable.
I'm Thea Robinson reporting for Yorkshire Voice.
And I had Thea here in the studio with me. Who thought one of these things could be so expensive? Do you think, given the price increases, people will still be celebrating Easter the same way this year?
Well, I think if the cost of living crisis has taught us anything, it's to be very creative with what we have. And whether or not that be making chocolates at home or finding a new Easter tradition to celebrate, I think people are going to be very, very versatile when it comes to solving this issue.
Okay. Well, that's all we have for you today. We will be back with you at the usual time of tomorrow at 4 p.m. To stay up to date with Yorkshire Voice, make sure you follow us on our social media pages. I'm Tanita Sims, and this has been Yorkshire Voice.